Humanity outside the garden. Beginning with the story of Adam and Eve in the garden, the primeval history of Genesis lays out a series of different stories intended to show the many different ways in which humanity has turned away from God since our beginnings. Cain and Abel. How is it that Adam and Eve's first son turned out to be a murderer, and what does this imply about human nature? After Adam and Eve are expelled from the garden, they have their first children, Cain and Abel. Cain became a farmer, and Abel a shepherd. One day, the brothers decided to offer a sacrifice to God. This is the first act of worship recorded in the Bible. Cain offered God a sacrifice from his crops, and Abel offered God a sacrifice from his herds. God showed a preference for Abel's offering, and this infuriated his brother. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." So when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" He said, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" Hearing this deceitful and arrogant answer, God sentenced Cain to leave his farmland and be a wanderer on the earth. But before God sends Cain off to be a restless wanderer, Cain objects, saying that if anyone finds him, they will kill him. This implies that there were in fact other groups of people on the earth at this time. God tells Cain that he will place a mark on him so that no one will kill him. God also says, "Therefore anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance sevenfold." The Kenites. Cain's name in Hebrew is also the name of a tribe in the biblical world, the Kenites. The two are spelled differently in English, but in Hebrew the spelling is the same, Cain. The Kenites were a nomadic tribe that lived somewhat to the south of Israel's settled territory. They are mentioned in several places in the Bible, in the books of Genesis, Numbers, Judges, 1 Samuel, and 1 Chronicles. The actions of Cain represent the actions of the Kenites. The Israelites thought of the Kenites as a violent and dangerous people, just like their founder Cain. The Kenites are also given credit for making major advancements in humanity's technology. According to Genesis, they introduced the world to city building, animal husbandry, bronze work, iron, and musical instruments. In other words, they were the dominant power holders of the time. The two genealogies. Adam and Eve became parents of a third son named Seth, who was born in the likeness and image of Adam. Genesis chapters 4 and 5 contain two separate genealogies, one listing the descendants of Cain, and the other listing the descendants of Seth. These two genealogies are very similar to each other, to the point that they list off variations of the same name in almost the exact same order as each other. When you compare the two genealogies side by side, you can see that on Cain's side, Adam, the mortal man, corresponds with Enoch, whose name means mortal. Going on down, the other names line up almost perfectly, with Cain corresponding with Kenan, Enoch with Enoch, Irad with Jared, Mehujael with Mahalalel, Methuselah with Methuselah, Lamech with Lamech, and finally Naamah and her three brothers, Jabal, Jubal, and tubal-cain, with Noah and his three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These lists of names are identical to each other after the different dialects are removed, indicating that they are actually two versions of the same account. These two genealogical lists are similar in nature to the ancient Sumerian record of their ancient kings. The Sethite line contains a list of 10 generations before a great flood, and the Sumerian record contains a list of 10 generations of kings before the time of a great flood. So many sevens. The number 7 is significant to both the Cainite record and the Sethite record. Cain's Lamech says if Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. Seth's Lamech lives for 777 years. Both Lamechs have a list of 3 sevens in their brief stories, one representing the perfection of God's creation, and the other representing the perversion of God's perfect creation. The Cainite genealogy is representative of the great increase in wickedness in the world. Lamech is apparently 77 times more violent than his ancestor Cain, or even the violent Kenites. The Sethite genealogy contains long lifespans for humanity. Enoch. According to the text, Enoch walked with God for 365 years, and then one day God took him away and he was no more. The number 365 is not insignificant. It is indicative that Enoch walked with God every day of the year for as many years as he lived. Enoch is also the 7th person on the Sethite list for this very reason, even though his counterpart on Cain's list comes in at number 3. Methuselah. Methuselah is the son of Enoch and is recorded to have lived for 969 years, making him the oldest person in the biblical record. A possible translation for the name Methuselah is "his death shall bring." Methuselah's death falls 7 days before the great flood. Lamech. The birth and death of Lamech, 777 years apart from each other, are key in understanding the complicated series of symbolic numbers found in the Sethite genealogy. According to the text, the time elapsed between Lamech's birth and Adam's death is 56 years. The time elapsed between Lamech's birth and Enoch's disappearance is 56 years times 2 plus 1 leap year. The time elapsed between Lamech's birth and Seth's death is 56 years times 3. The time elapsed from Lamech's death to Kenan's death is 416 years. The time elapsed from Lamech's birth to Mahalalel's death is 416 years. The time elapsed from Enoch's death to the birth of Noah's sons is also 416 years. The time elapsed from Lamech's birth to Enoch's death is 84 years. The time elapsed between Jared's death and Noah's death is 84 years times 2 plus 416 years, and the time elapsed between Enoch's birth and Lamech's birth is 84 years times 3. So how in the world do all of these numbers relate to each other, and to Lamech's special death at the age of 777? Here's how. 56 is the same as 7 times 7 plus 7. 84 is the same as 77 plus 7. Also, Enoch, the 7th generation, is associated with his disappearance at age 365, which includes 1 leap year. If you divide those 365 years minus the 1 leap year by 7, you come up with 52. With 52 now symbolically associated with 7, you can say 7 times 52 plus 52 is 416, which means that 416 is now also a symbol of these 3 sets of 7s. So when you begin to understand that numbers in the Bible have a greater qualitative value than quantitative, you can begin to see the messages that the writers were trying to convey. The Cainite and the Sethite genealogies represent 2 different paths for the human race, one good and one evil. The 7s that are spread throughout scream to us that the time of completion and perfection has arrived. The time of the old creation is complete, and its death, for the sake of perfecting it, is soon to come.